is predicated on Order 43. With your kind permission.
Go ahead.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon this explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, I consulted with you, and of course there's a letter before you. I want to draw the attention of the Senate to the demands of one of our own who served Delta South Senatorial District, the seat I presently occupy today. He was once an occupier of this seat from Delta South, by name Senator Chief Francis Abuja from Delta State, who died on Boxing Day, the 26th of December 2016. Francis Abuja was elected senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the platform of Social Democratic Party, SDP, between 1992 and 1993. Before then, Francis Abuja served as Deputy Speaker of the defunct Bendel State House of Assembly when Benson Alegbe of blessed memory was the Speaker of the then Bendel State House of Assembly. Francis Abuja was an elder statesman, a prominent politician, a very astute politician from Delta State, and well respected. Abuja, as at the time of his death, was a member of the Elders Committee and, of course, Board of Trustees of the APC. That was the last office that he held. And a foundation member of the APC. Abuja is a prominent chief from Ozoro, and, of course, one of the most important voices from the Niger Delta region. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the essence of these 43 orders that I've raised is in threefold. One, to draw attention of the Senate to the death of this great man. Secondly, to draw the attention of the Senate to the practice that we all know, to at least observe 1 minute silence in his honor. And thirdly, Mr. President, is to invite, as stated in the letter from the family, to invite this distinguished Senate to at least be there to give him the last farewell. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I beg to resume my seat. Thank you.
All right, distinguished colleagues, we've lost one of our old colleagues, and Senator James Manager spoke to me about this, and he's just raised that. In accordance with our tradition, I will just be inviting all of us to rise and observe 1 minute silence in its honor. May the soul of Senator Francis Abuja, late, rest in perfect peace. So James, convey our condolences to the family, who are also arranged to send a delegation during his burial. Senate Leader. Point of order, yes, Senator Marafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues. I rise to borrow the words of my younger brother Adino. I draw inspiration from order no, not 25. Under the privilege order, sir. Order 14.
Can you read it? Put on your microphone.
Order 14. Privileges are rights enjoyed by the Senate collectively and by the members of the Senate individually conferred by the legislative houses, Powers and Privileges Act 208, Laws of the Federation 1990, and other statutes, or by practice, precedent, usage, and custom. 15, any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that a contempt or breach of privilege has been committed, or referring to the matter to the Committee on Ethics and Privileges. But if the matter is raised in committee of the whole Senate, the chairman shall have the chair to report, leave the chair to report progress. Mr. President, the matter is just, in my opinion, is sudden. My distinguished colleague, Senator Ali Ndume, raised under personal explanations. And in his submission, he alluded to something that is very, very dear and very important to me. He talked about it is Ali Ndume today, and it could be somebody else tomorrow. And that is very true. I think we have a duty, or I have a duty, to also educate Nigerians on what actually happens. I am one of the proponents of following due diligence and the rule of law. And I feel I have a duty to also say on behalf of this Senate that what we did yesterday was in accordance with our rules. And there was no breach of either the Constitution or the rules of this chamber. I stood on this floor several times to speak about the importance of following our rules. A lot of people could have or could read different meanings to different things. But I want to put it on record that what we did was in accordance with the provisions of this order. Mr. President, I want to draw the attention of the...
Sorry, Senator Marafa. I think we've rested this matter. And we're on live television. I just expect us to do something more serious than discussing our internal affairs. So we've noted their point. Thank you so much. Sorry.
All right. For what we did yesterday, and it is duly followed. There was no provision in that order that says somebody has to be consulted or something. I just feel it should be, we should put it on record, because tomorrow somebody can ask me or can ask any person that when you did so-so thing at so-so time, you didn't follow your rules. And I want to say that as a member of this Senate, I was seated right here yesterday, and I went through this thing, and I know Order 32 provided, 32-6 provided for what we did yesterday, and it was enough.
All right, thank you. State Leader.
The first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Public Accounts. Sorry, Mr. President, I think I will start with page 1. The first business of the day is the presentation of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Sani Abakura against Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited for unlawful disengagement from service. B, petition from Mr. Phillips Oroho against the Federal Medical Center, Asaba, over alleged wrongful termination of his appointment by the center. C, petition from Umaru Abdulmuminu Odafe against the National Board for Technical Incubation for alleged malicious transfer from Technology Incubation Center, Wari, to Yanagua. D, petition from I.O. Ingene, Esquire, on behalf of Mbulu Owo communities in Nkanu East local government area of Enugu State against soldiers of the 82 Division of the Nigerian Army for unwarranted invasion, displacement, threatened ejection from their ancestral land. E, petition from Yahya Ibrahim Shunko against the Nigerian Army over his wrongful and abrupt compulsory retirement from the Nigerian Army in 1999 without reason. F, petition from YB Aminu on behalf of the next of kins of Alhaji Haruna Musa, deceased, of Koko Town, against the Nigerian Army for extrajudicial execution of APC supporters at Koko Bese local government area and Suru local government area, Kebbi State. G, petition from war-affected pioneer officer cadets of the Nigerian Air Force against the Nigerian Air Force for non-payment of gratuity and pensions by the Military Pensions Board. H, petition from Mr. Anoke Wilson Akuma against the Federal Revenue Service and the West African Examination Council over a lawful termination of his appointment by the FRS on false assumption of forged certificate. And I, petition from Farouk Umar Ibrahim against the Nigerian Navy for alleged wrongful dismissal from the Navy. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyau, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the reports.
Thank you, Senate Leader. Unfortunately, the Senator Anyau is not here. Okay. Senator Binoba, on behalf of Senator Anyau.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Obi Norma, representing Ebonyi Central Senatorial District. Your Excellency, I arise to move a motion that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Sani Abakura against the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited for unlawful disengagement from service. B, petition from Mr. Philip Oroho against the Federal Medical Center, Saba, over alleged wrongful termination of his appointment by the center. C, petition from Umaru Abdulmuminu Odafe against the National Board for Technology Incubation for alleged malicious transfer from Technology Incubation Center, Wari, to Yanagua. D, petition from I.O. Ngene Esquire on behalf of Mbulu Owo community in Nkanu East local government area of Enugu State against soldiers of the 82 Division of the Nigerian Army for unwarranted invasion, displacement, threatened injection from their ancestral land. E, petition from Yahaya Ibrahim Shanku against the Nigerian Army over his wrongful and upward compulsory retirement from the Nigerian Army in 1999 without reason. F. Petition from YB Aminu on behalf of the next of kin of Alhaji Aruna Musa, deceased of Kuku Town, against the Nigerian Army for extrajudicial execution of APC supporters at Kuku-based local government and Suru local government, Kebbi State. G. Petition from war-affected pioneer officer cadet of the Nigerian Air Force against the Nigerian Air Force for non-payment of gratuity and pension by the Military Pension Board. H. Petition from Mr. Anoke Wilson Akuma against the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, and the West African Examination Council, WAEC, over unlawful termination of his appointments by the FIRS on false assumption of forged certificates. And petition from Farouk Umar Ibrahim against Nigerian Navy for alleged wrongful dismissal from Navy. I so moved, Mr. President.
So do you have all these reports? Ready to lay them? Okay, so we'll get somebody to second their motion. Senator Magnus Abe, can you second the motion for Senate to receive the report?
Mr. President, my distinguished and esteemed colleagues, before I second this motion, let me say a Happy New Year to everybody. And this is the very first time I'm getting up to say anything in the Senate in the 8th Senate, after almost 2 years. But it is my pleasure to second the motion, and I so second. Thank you.
Thank you. Most welcome back. Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the motion that Senate do now receive the reports as enumerated by the Senate leader and Senator Obi Nobwa, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We may proceed to lay the reports simultaneously. All right, thank you. Senate leader. Point of order, Tiradokwe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Suleiman Adoke. This may be belated, but I thank you for the opportunity to raise the order. I come on order 43. If you permit, I'll read.
Go ahead. Put back your microphone.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debates arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is so sought. I had approached you earlier on, Mr. President. I stand to bring to the notice of this Senate, and I'm sure we have already taken notice of it, about the demise of the former governor of Niger State. I rise more specifically because his wife, our former colleague, Senator Zainab Kure, represented Niger South in the 6th and 7th Senate. And in deep sympathy and solidarity with her, I thought this Senate should accord a 1-minute silence in respect of the late governor, who is a very apt leader of the PDP in the North Central Zone, and I've had shared many serious moments with him and I know how committed he is to the growth and development of this country. I therefore plead that this Senate kindly rise in 1 minute silence in respect of the late governor. I believe the leadership has already sent a delegation there, but we could rise for 1 moment. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Senator Adokwe, for bringing this up. Well, let me also assure our colleagues that we're in touch with his wife, Senator Kure, and we've sent a strong delegation led by the deputy leader to represent the Senate at the burial, which will take place at 12 noon today. And it's only befitting that we should also honor him with a mini silence. The late Governor Kure was a very quintessential politician, one of our leaders, a very consistent politician, very successful public servant. He served this country at various capacities, so we're all going to miss him. But importantly, we'll send our condolences to his wife, who was with us here, and we believe that the Almighty God will condole the family more than we can ever do. So on this note, I invite the rest of our colleagues for us to stand up and observe 1 minute silence in his honor. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the first order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the screening of the nomination of Mr. Antonin P. Ayine for appointment as the Auditor General of the Federation. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Tuesday, 10th January 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Andy Uba, the chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Please quickly distribute the report. Senator Andy Uba.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Andy Uba, representing Anambra South Senatorial Zone. Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Public Accounts on the screening of the nomination of Mr. Anthony B. Ayeni for the appointment as the Auditor General of the Federation. I so move.
Senator Solomon, I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamilekon, representing Lagos West Senatorial District, I rise to second the motion as moved by the Chairman, Senate Committee on Public Account, that we do consider the report on the screening of Mr. Ayen Anthony Nkwi as the Auditor General of the Federation. I so second.
All right, thank you for rising to the occasion. Dear colleagues, those who support that this report be now considered, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Uba, have the floor.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, in order not to bore us, I will go straight to the methodology. Yeah, I'll go straight. In screening the nominee, the committee examined his educational qualification, career progression, experience, character, federal character principles, understanding of the functions of the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation, etc. findings. In the course of the screening, the nominee, the committee noted the following. The nominee started his working career as Auditor 2 in the Office of the Auditor General for Cross River State in May 1988. He has served as the Cross River State Auditor General for local government from September 2001 to date. He has acquired relevant working experience, professional trainings, and qualifications in accounting and management. He has a clear idea on how to improve the performance of the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation. There were petitions against the nomination of Mr. Ayeni
Anthony Mpe for appointment as Auditor General for the Federation. The thrust of the petitions are that there are senior directors in the Office of the Auditor General for the Federation that are qualified for appointment as the Auditor General. B. Mr. Ayeni Anthony Mpe is an Auditor General for local government with less scope than what he is going to meet. The appointment of Mr. Ayeni Anthony Mpe will lower the morale of existing staff. The committee, however, found out that none of the petitions queried the qualification and professional competence of Mr. Ayeni Anthony Mpe. Also, the nominee underwent due process of appointment and, in fact, competed with directors from the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. And he came first from after all the examinations were done. In conclusion, the nominee performed credibly during the screening exercise. He responded well to questions, observations, and comments of members of the committee. Members were therefore convinced that he is a fit and proper person to serve as Auditor General of the Federation. Recommendation. The committee, having been satisfied with the qualification, competence, experience, suitability, and character of the nominee, hereby recommend Mr. Ayeni Anthony Mpe to the Senate for confirmation as Auditor General of the Federation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Any comment? Mr. Binta.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binta Masi Garba, Adamawa North Senatorial Zone, a member of this committee, which obviously has centered my signature for the confirmation of Mr. Aye. But after due deliberation about a week ago, a petition was drawn to my attention, of which obviously I discussed with the chair, but it's pertinent for me to bring it to the notice of this chamber, and for us now to critique and give either a passage or to resent on the passage or the confirmation of Mr. Aye. Mr. Aye basically is an Auditor General of a local government in Cross River State. And by virtue of, even if he was to be, reconverted to the federal service, he would have been on level 14 instead of what was on ground now. And one of the areas of discourse,
Sorry, was he Auditor General for local government or Auditor General in local government? Are two different things. For local government at state level. Okay, go ahead. Put on your microphone.
If he was to be converted to the federal service, he would have been on level 14. And the area of contention is that Auditor General Office of the Federation ought to be on level 17. But that at its base, what triggered my curiosity is that Mr. Aye is a cousin to the head of service, Mrs. Wilfred. And again, if I can just digress a little from what I have heard, sir, that presently the head of service of the Federation, Mrs. Wilfred Ekenem Oyo Ita, is a cousin to Mr. Anthony Ikpe Anyen, and the acting Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Walter, are all from River State, and they are all heads of their respective service. Therefore, appointing another person from the same Cross River State as the head of the audit service will negate the spirit of federal character. So I think we need to probably look into this issue of the Office of the Auditor General for us to look, because those are the two critical areas that I'm craving the indulgence of this Senate to look and to critique into it. Thank you very much.
Well, I would have just ruled on this quickly, but let me just allow some people to contribute. It's not Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, let me, in my little brief comment, give a bit of elucidation. The appointment we are considering now is not a promotion. It is also, we are considering an appointment that is being sent to us by Mr. President. We are also not considering elevation or change of service. The little I know is that this position was advertised nationally and internationally. Nationally and internationally. And that there were many people who competed, including serving directors in the ministry. And that the man that is mentioned now came tops. He was the best in terms of qualification. He was the best in terms of capacity. He was the best in terms of job capability and suitability. And then, of course, the issues raised here were raised. Then Mr. President, in his wisdom, decided to go back into it and said they should send the first three to him. And then a further scrutiny was carried out. The first explanation I'd like to make is that Mr. Ayine was not on the salary level of a director. He was actually on consolidated salary level. That means he was on the salary level of a permanent secretary. That's number one. So it's above level 17. That's the first thing. The second aspect of it is that the appointment of Auditor General for local government does not mean that that person is an Auditor General for a local government. It means that the person is Auditor General for the entire local governments of that state. There is only one. So it is not an Auditor General for a particular local government, but rather an Auditor General for the local governments combined. And that means that it's the head of a major parastatal. As governor of my state from 2007 to 2015, whenever we appointed an Auditor General for local government, that person will come from the state service, very qualified and must have been on the level of a director. And so once the person is appointed, he comes under the consolidated salary scheme, or the same level as commissioners, the same level as permanent secretaries, and therefore far above level 17, not to talk of being on level 16. And then the man we are talking about now, sir, where I'm a bit worried is that when we set up a committee, when we have a committee in the Senate to go and scrutinize and do a job, and they've taken a lot of things into cognizance, and they bring recommendation before us, we should trust the capabilities of our colleagues. And then we should not question them in the open in this manner, because we believe that the committee members are astute and have the capacity to do the job. So, Mr. President, again, the issue of where the man comes from does not even arise, because supposing we took somebody who was from London, but a Nigerian, who also took the interview. Mr. President, they had written interview. He came tops in the written interview. He came tops in the written interview, above all others. He came tops in the oral interview, above all others. And there was even another blackmail. The blackmail was that the man was 44 years old, and therefore would remain 16 years in service. We looked at this in other realms, and we now found out that the man is actually 56 years. He has only 3 years and either 7 months to be an Auditor General before getting to the age of 60. So all the arguments we are making here will pale into insignificance, because already the first thing is that the country ought not to. But since the country has advertised this position and somebody came tops, it will be wrong for us here to come and rewrite another examination, because they do the examination, they went through the due processes. Long explanation is that I was not a member of the Senate when there was a miscarriage of justice connected with my state in respect of a situation like this. We had a lady called Fonakwan. When it was advertised for the position of executive chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service, she was working with Pitmawick London. She saw the advert in London Post and took the examination, went through due process in its entirety, and arrived in Nigeria and stayed 7 months in Hilton for her to be confirmed by the Senate. Then one day, I don't know what argument it was brought forward, they threw her out, and then she went into the unemployment market, and that was the Nigerian that we destroyed. I would not like to see another Nigerian destroyed here. So, Mr. President, I urge my colleagues to drop their opposition and accept the report as it is now, and then give this man clearance.
State Leader. Sorry, point of order, Mr. Kibo.
Constitutional point of order, Section 86 of the Constitution. Section 86. And also our rules, Section 127. Our rule 127. Let me go start with the first one. Appointment of Auditor General. The Auditor General for the Federation shall be appointed by the President on the recommendation of the Federal Civil Service Commission, subject to confirmation by the Senate. 2. The power to appoint persons to act in the office of the Auditor General shall be vested in the President. 3. Except with the sanction of a resolution of the Senate, no person shall act in the office of the Auditor General of the Federation for a period exceeding 6 months. Mr. President, I'm coming through this order just to give an explanation that the position of the Auditor General is an appointment. Now, if it's an appointment, when a minister is appointed to head a ministry, he has never worked maybe anywhere. He come out from the university with a degree in mathematics or something. Or with a degree, let me say with a degree. And we have also seen people that has HND, and they are appointed to head a ministry. But it's an appointment. If it is a promotion, it's a different thing. Now, what we look in this one is this. Because it's a specialized area, is the man qualified for the job? Has he done similar job before? Has he gotten the capacity to do the job? If these questions are yes, then it is the president's appointment, and it goes through. Then we should honor the committee's recommendation. Two, second point, sir. Our order 127. In considering the confirmation of a nominee, the committee shall not call as witness any person other than the nominee. However, resort may be had to memorandum submitted to the committee, if any. Such memorandum shall contain the names of the writer, verifiable address, a clear and dated signature, and shall be accompanied by an affidavit disposed to by the veracity of its content. Mr. President, this is a very important issue. Now, in my own humble opinion, I think that the issue of even highlighting in the report that there were petitions should not arise. If a committee has treated the petition and they felt that there is nothing wrong with the petition, they should not talk about that one. But in case anyone raise about it, then they will come. When they come with that issue, we have to ask the question whether those that send the petition, whether the petition is official, whether it was taken to court, and whether there was affidavit on it and all that. Now, if there are just written paper and they send to them as a petition, it is not yet a petition before the Senate. So I think that even that 2 paragraphs in the report should not be there. So my prayer is that we should stand by the report and allow the person to go through, because it is the president's appointment.
State Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. Mr. President, I just want to shed some light on this. And I will draw from my little experience as the former chairman of the Public Accounts Committee of this chamber from 2007 to 2015. We screened and confirmed in this Senate 2 previous auditors general. The immediate past Auditor General for the Federation, Mr. Samuel Okura from Benue, came from outside of the public of the Auditor General system in Nigeria. That is to say that he was in the state as Auditor General, but he applied when it was advertised, and he was successful, and the president nominated him. And of course, we had so many petitions here. Those who were in the 7th Senate, 6th Senate will recall that even at the point of presentation of the report, there was so much protest from some of our colleagues at that time that the man was coming from outside, and that there were more senior directors in the Auditor General's office. But sir, there was wisdom in the appointment of someone from outside of the Auditor General's office at that time, that someone will bring fresh ideas, and therefore this Senate passed it, and Samuel Okura was confirmed as Auditor General, and he served for about 3.5 years. Sir, I've looked at the 3 reasons why the petitioners didn't want this man to be passed. They said they are senior directors in the Office of Auditor General. We had done with that in the past, and I think we can do with it now like we did with it before. It's the prerogative of Mr. President to select and appoint whoever he feels can do that job. Secondly, they said his local government, Auditor General for local government. I think that is even the most complex auditing process to do, because expenditures in local governments are normally very difficult. So he was not looking at a local government like my colleague, the minority leader, said. He had all the local governments in the state to audit under him. I think that is a plus for him. And finally, sir, I believe that our colleagues should look at this. We should look at this.
Order.
We should look at this request as a means of enhancing the office of the Auditor General, because this particular time is for the war against corruption, and we need someone who has met all the criteria. Thank you, sir.
Is there any person who is against? Okay. Senate leaders, can you move a motion? I will go to the committee of the whole.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate resolves into the committee of the whole to consider this report. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I humbly rise to second the motion that the Senate do resolve into the committee of the whole to consider this report.
Their colleagues, those in support of this motion, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Dear colleagues, distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Mr. Anthony Mbe Aine for appointment as the Auditor General of the Federation? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. State leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate reverse to plenary and report progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support the motion that the Senate do revert to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Dear colleagues, those in support of the motion that the chair do report progress, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole consider the report of the Public Accounts Committee on the screening of Mr. President's nominee for appointment as Auditor General of the Federation and approve the nomination of Mr. Anthony Mbe as Auditor General of the Federation. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. We'll now go for the confirmation. Will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mr. Anthony Mbe for appointment as the Auditor General of the Federation? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Anthony Mbe is hereby confirmed as the Auditor General of the Federation. My dear colleagues, on your behalf, I'd like to congratulate him and thank the committee for concluding this work in earnest. And we do believe that with entrant in the position, he's going to strengthen that position, especially now that the country is determined to fight corruption, to ensure that the correct things are done at different levels, that accounting books are kept properly, and our books are also well audited. I believe he will also work with our Committee on Public Accounts to ensure accountability in the system, and then be able to create the impression that our country is a country of decent people. So once more, I'd like to congratulate him on this nomination and this appointment and wish him good luck going forward. Let me also say that my information is that the person now confirmed is from different senatorial districts with the head of service of the Federation. Sometimes people write petitions with the aim of just destroying others without actually giving the correct situation. So the information is misleading, and I believe that we should take note of this just for our records. Besides, the fact that even if they are related does not even disqualify the person, because they are different individuals and entitled to all the blessings that this country can afford to its citizens. So on this note, let me say that what we have done is in accordance with our Constitution and the rules of this Senate. Thank you, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, respected colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion standing in the name of Senator Jibrin Barau and 4 others on the ban on the importation of vehicles through the land borders in the country. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Jibrin Barau to move the motion.
Senator Jibrin Barau.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Barau Jibrin. I represent Kano North in this hallowed chamber. Mr. President, I stand to move the motion on the ban on the importation of vehicles through the land borders into this country. Mr. President, before I read the motion, I want to draw the attention of this Senate that there's an omission on the list of the co-sponsors. There's Senator Binta Masi Garba. She's one of the co-sponsors of the motion, but she was omitted due to typographical error. On this note, I seek the indulgence of the President of the Senate to read the motion as follows. That the Senate knows the recently announced policy of the federal government to stop the importation of vehicles into the country through the nation's land borders as from 1st of January 2017. Further notes that it is reported that the ban will lead to the loss of about 500,000 jobs by the people engaged in the business of vehicles, importation and handling services in the border areas and around the country. Believes that the economy of border villages and towns that depends on the activities of vehicles importation shall be adversely affected to the detriment of all. Observe that since the announcement through the Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerians have spoken out, and they still do, that it is not economically expedient to ban the importation of vehicles through our land borders, given the ramification of such a policy on the economy. Concerned that the decision was ostensibly premised on the allegation that importation of vehicles through the land borders no longer holds prospect for revenue generation because of the large-scale evasion of import duties. Convinced that rather than stop or suspend the importation of vehicles through our land borders, as envisaged in the new policy, it will make better economic sense to allow for the importation of vehicles through our entry border posts in each geopolitical zone that has international land borders in the country. This will allow for better monitoring and control by the Customs Service, as the land border posts shall become fewer to handle by the Nigerian Customs Service compared to the current situation. Further observe that since the Nigerian Customs Service is convinced that it has the capability of making sure that the government shall not lose its revenue when vehicles are imported through the designated sea ports, this Senate believes that there is no reason why the Nigerian Customs Service shall not employ the same capability to ensure that every revenue belonging to the government is received by it from the importers of cars through the aforesaid land borders. That these resolves call on the Customs Service to suspend further action on its policy of an outright ban on the importation of vehicles through our land borders from 1st January 2017. 2, mandate the Senate Committee on Custom to investigate the circumstances that led to the sudden decision of the federal government on the issue of the importation of vehicles through the land borders. And 3, urge the federal government to consider the regulation of vehicle importation by approving an entry point in each of the geopolitical zones that has international land borders or border in the country. Mr. President, I so move.
Well, this motion is very popular, so I just want to appeal those who are going to contribute to keep your contribution short so that others will be accommodated. We'll still have a few other motions and bills for second reading. So if you don't have a chance to speak on a particular motion, you have also a chance to speak the next one, or maybe at the second reading of any of the bills. But I just want to appeal that we'll keep our contributions short. Let me invite Senator Ali Waki to second the motion, then we'll continue.
Your Excellencies, Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Madam Wakili. I represent Bauchi's House. I am a co-sponsor of this very apt and ambitious motion, and I'm in total support of all the contents initiated therein. While seconding it, Your Excellency, let me put it on record that I'm in total support of whatever the federal government will do to ensure that the budget is implemented in terms of revenue. That I'm not contending the fact that the Federal Minister of Finance has statutory right of checking out fiscal policies. Neither am I contending that the Customs Service, through the Comptroller General of Customs, does not have the right to canalize traffic. But what I'm saying is that we from the APC came on a popular ticket, on a popular trend, and anything that will alienate the membership and discourage the uncommon senators from the other side to come in, will resist it, sir. This policy has debased the popularity of the party within my constituents in particular, and some parts of the Nigerian state. As a former custom officer, sir, that was at the frontier of Semi and Tinkan Island, I know that it will be very difficult for us to enforce this ban. The Customs Service and its personnel will be overstretched. There will be hostilities from the border communities. There will be a rise in transnational crimes between us and our neighbors. If you check into the history, whenever we take this kind of decision, you discover that there are incursions of criminals from our neighboring states, our neighboring nations into Nigeria. It is there on record, sir, that during Obasanjo, he had to move to Seme. The Beninese president will have to come, and there was a bilateral agreement. Nigeria is the biggest brother in West Africa, sir. If we continue with the ban, our relationship with those countries will be affected. They depend on us. They have a different fiscal policy. They don't collect revenue taxes. They collect only taxes. And that if we had reformed the customs service, sir, we have spent billions, and yet we are dissatisfied that the borders should not operate. Then we need to take a look at the money that went into the reforms of the customs service, where issue of automation and other things that will have helped to collect the maximum revenue will have been affected. I call on us to support this motion to ensure that from Seme to Idiroko, to Owode, to Umfong, to Kamba, to Jibia, to Megateri, to Banki, to Sahuda, we allow these vehicles to come in. But let us strengthen the customs service and give them the welfare they needed to do the job. It is in our own interest so that we will reduce casualties, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, Senator Lindume.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Mohamed Alindume, representing Borno South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to support this motion because it's a very, very important motion. I've been looking forward, and we discussed with the mover of the motion immediately this new policy was announced. Mr. President, let us not forget about the fact that Section 14(2)(b) of our Constitution specifically says the purpose of governance is security and welfare of the citizens. The situation we have in this country now, where there's high rate of unemployment, poverty, anything that will create employment should not be discouraged. And government policies must be popular. Because the government is for the people and supposed to be by the people. That's all what democracy is all about. We know that this new policy is going to render so many small businessmen. I know of so many in Borno State that are crying out and that have approached me that there should be policy reversal in this direction. Mr. President, the other neighboring countries that the importers are patronizing are poorer than Nigeria. Yet, because the policy there favors them, they of course import through that port. Then why wouldn't Nigeria look at its policy to encourage the importers? I'm sure it's about pricing. Because if, for example, you can import through Lagos cheaper than Cotonou, of course they will not do that. So this policy that government just implements by sitting down in an office and taking decisions that are unpopular or that will affect the citizens does not go well for the government or the country in general. In fact, there are stakeholders in this business. So when you are trying to introduce new policy, you should engage the stakeholders and know what to do. Now, Lagos is over-congested. Other ports are not effectively utilized. No preparation was made adequately for this. And therefore, I call on this Senate through this motion, and when we get to the prayers, I think we should strengthen it so that we should not just a passing motion here. It should be with a teeth to make sure that there is a time frame, that there is implementation, and if, of course, this policy will be implemented, then there should be timeline so that people that will be affected will be prepared or find another or alternative thing to do. So I want to call on our colleagues. This policy, I'm sure this motion is popular to all of us. So we should just support it and go to the prayers.
Dino.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. I want to continue from where the former leader stopped. Mr. President, my colleagues, if you look at the content of the motion, there is a particular place here that reads, concerned that the decision was ostensibly premised on the allegation that the importation of vehicles through land borders no longer hold good prospects for revenue generation because of the large-scale evasion of import duties. Mr. President, my colleagues, we are in a precarious situation in this country. We are in a time when people live per day, not sure of where the next meal will come from. Policy formulation and implementation must be done, putting into consideration the welfare of the people. Chapter 2 of the Constitution is very clear that the fundamental objective principle of government shall be the welfare and the security of the people. So in enacting or propagating any policy, we must definitely look at the socio-economic impact, positive or negative concomitant effect on the people. Mr. President, my colleagues, I want to say that instead of taking this very draconian decision to stop importation of vehicles, it would have been more logical and responsible that the Nigerian custom show some capacity in manning our borders to make sure that instead of using their limitation to cause unnecessary hardship on the masses, instead they should enhance capacity to man the borders properly so that there will be no loss of revenue through illegal movement of vehicles from neighboring countries into Nigeria without paying the necessary level or due. This policy announcement, to me, is an admittance of the fact that the Nigerian custom have no capacity to man our borders effectively and stop illegal movement of vehicles into this country. So this Senate, as the House of the People, as the last bus stop of the Talakawas and the employees of Bembruce, we must, as a people, speak in the interest of the people by making sure that those who do not have the capacity and capability of the Andy Ubas of this world and the Ndumes of this world who still have the capacity to buy new vehicles should be supported by Mr.
Point order, well noted.
We should not only protect the masses of this country, we should be seen to be defending the people we are representing here. So the Nigerian Customs should please go back to the drawing board and see within limited resources how they can improve the manning of our borders so that there will be proper payment of tax and other levies.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Sam Egu, representing Ebonyi North. Mr. President, I want to say that most of the points I had in mind have been discussed eloquently by my colleagues. But let me also add that just yesterday, a very unpopular policy was discussed here in the floor of the Senate about the closure of Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. Today again, this Senate is discussing another very unimportant and unpopular policy of this government. And one will start to ask, this is a government that is supposed to bring change and succor to the people. But all the policies they have brought out has rather brought hardship to the people, to the masses of this country. I would therefore want to ask, does it mean that the agencies of government are not aware that people are suffering? Are they not conversant with the situation on ground? They are not helping, Mr. President. And I want to submit that this Senate stands committed with the masses of this country and will always defend the interests of the masses. And we ask the government agencies to please put on their thinking cap and stop shunning out policies that are anti-people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Philip.
Yes. Senator Philip Arua Yunka from Nasarawa State, Nasarawa North Senatorial District. I feel I want to support this, but with a little deviation. If indeed the federal government or the Ministry of Finance want to stop this, the importation through the land border, I think they should identify what is the reason or what are the reasons why the importers find it very easy in coming through the land borders. And I feel one of those things is the tariff. If the government will also reduce their own tariff to ensure that they encourage people that are importing through the seaport, I think that one will go a long way in even forcing the land border, at least the importation through the land border to be reduced. One, if you look at most of the people importing through this land border, they import and they pay two export duty, because by the time that they bring it through the other countries, they bring it and they pay their own import duties in that country, and they still come and pay import duty in this country. They compare the two, and even the two cannot match with what they are having here. So if the government wants to stop the border, I think the only way they can do is to find solution through why the people are importing through the land border and stop closing the borders, because by the time they do that, they will be able to at least achieve the end.
All right, thank you, Senator Gaya.
My distinguished colleagues, Mr. President of the Senate, my distinguished colleagues, I am Kabiru Ibrahim Gaya from Kano South, representing the good people of Kano South. Okay, Mr. President, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am a co-sponsor of this bill, motion with Senator Barau, Senator Shehu Sani, Aliu Sabi Abdullahi, Binta Masi, and Senator Wakili. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. Mr. President, this is a very important motion. The fact that Nigerians are crying and not happy with this policy. Mr. President, as legislators, we should speak the truth, even though the policy is by our government of today. But I believe the truth must be told. We should not, as a country, trying to find a way for employment for Nigerians, and at the end of the day, losing employment to the teeming Nigerians. By stopping the importation of these vehicles through land borders, it shows that the tax rate on the duties of vehicles is ranging between 0 to 75%, now 75% duty. While in Cotonou, they are only charging 3.65%. In Ghana, it's 5%. In Cameroon, it's 10%, and so on. Why should Nigeria move to 70% in blocking this? You see, there is always a saying and belief that even the
Benin Republic people are saying that Cameroon, or Benin, is part of Nigeria, which they call the largest port of Nigeria in Benin. Mr. President, if we are going to improve employment, we must be able to put the same figure of charges with Benin Republic because there are no vehicles flowing. I can give you an example, Mr. President. The custom duties on these vehicles is about 600,000 in Cotonou. In Nigeria, it's 2.5 million naira. So if you put 2.5 million and then you pay duty, how much are you going to sell the vehicles? That's why I found these vehicles, the Kumbo vehicles, were using for transportation, like a gold vehicle, which I bought some recently. Initially, I bought them at 300,000. Now I had to buy them at about 1 million to 1.1 million for the same vehicle. So, Mr. President, I think we have to look really into this matter and stop. And for issue of revenue, we're not making any revenue gain. From the records here, it shows we have lost over 200 billion from when this law started, or this act. So, Mr. President, I want to say that we should revert to the same system and that let government man those suicide borders and keep the same revenue or the same taxation with our neighboring countries so that people can now utilize our own ports or even come through the borders. Mr. President, with this issue, I show our calculation that you have raised employment capability up to 500,000 people. But by so reducing that, it means we have lost opportunity for over 500,000 people. And in Kano, we are mainly our people are traders who people come to buy vehicles from Kano and distribute them to the neighboring states. Now in Kano State, almost 400 people have lost employment. This is going to increase insecurity in my state, and you know how volatile Kano is. So we have to look at these issues and suggest that we should revert into this former taxation, and the government should look at this policy. It's not welcomed by Nigerians, and the government should revert to its position. So, Mr. President, I believe if the government can do that, things would have been much better. And the advice we are giving is our own government. Whatever the people want and what's in the interest of Nigerians, we should reduce the hardship. Secondly, if an importer borrows money from a bank and purchases a vehicle, he's going to pay 24% interest rate. At the same time, come and pay 75% custom duty. That vehicles can never be so. That's why I find that most of the vehicles now are off the road. And most of Nigerians, they use these second-hand vehicles for the transportation. I believe some of our senators here are using also Tokumbo vehicles in some places. So, Mr. President, this is not a popular decision. We thought the government should revert, and I agree with all the prayers we put by the mover of the motion that they should be looked into. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Atai Aidoko Ali. I represent Kogi East. Mr. President, first of all, I want to commend the movers of this motion because, Mr. President, this is an issue that concerns quite a number of Nigerians. The people that deals with the importation of these cars, the car dealers, the transporters, and indeed all Nigerians that depends on Tokumbo cars to survive. Mr. President, since the announcement of this policy, cost of cars have gone up astronomically. People cannot afford to buy cars even in the middle of this recession. Life is supposed to even be better, made better by government, but this policy has made even life worse. The Tokumbo cars that farmers manage to bring farm products to the towns to sell their products at the end of harvest. This policy has affected people moving their products to the farms. Mr. President, the worst part of this policy is that the custom agents have gone back to car dealers in Kaduna, in Kano, in Abuja to seize cars that have already been imported even before the policy. They go raid the car dealers' shops and impound these vehicles in the name that they have imported these vehicles through the land border. Mr. President, this Senate needs to rise to the occasion. The prayers of the motion is very apt. We need to invite the leadership of the custom so that all the decisions they have taken, they have to reverse it because it has caused unmeasurable hardship to Nigerians. So I Without much ado, I support this motion, and I urge this distinguished Senate to support this motion because this is touching the feelings, the core of the Nigerians as we speak. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity.
All right, Senator Yusuf A. Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My support for this motion is just on a temporary scale. This is because I am aware we have land borders in this country, land ports in this country, or inland ports in this country, and we have to make use of these inland ports very, very effectively. The economics of it does not make a lot of sense to me, but the politics and the social aspect of it makes a lot of sense to me. Yes, it's a popular thing, but the cost of keeping importation through the land borders is higher than using the ports. That is the economics of it, no doubt about it. But like I said, it's a temporary thing. For instance, the Calabar port. The Calabar port is not utilized effectively at all because it has to be dredged further. So if we are not using our ports, there is no way we can expand the utilization of other ports. So, and these are aspects that we can use to increase the utilization of our ports. That is why I said my support is temporary and is subject to making our inland ports very, very effective. You can develop them. Trains can carry these vehicles to the land ports and to make it easy for people either from Maiduguri or from Taraba to come and take these vehicles rather than taking the vehicles right from Lagos to the hinterland. So that is why I said this is why my support is temporary. I wish we could add it in our prayers when we come to that about the promotion and utilization of inland ports in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Okay, Senator T. Orji.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Senate President. My very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator T.A. Orji Ochendo. I represent the people of Abia Central. My colleagues, when you look at the sponsor and co-sponsors of this bill, of this motion, you may have the impression that this is peculiar to those people from that side. But this is a general problem that faces this country. There is no part of this country that doesn't have somebody who is in this business. Therefore, this motion that we are debating now is a general phenomenon, and every person must try to support it so that this thing will stop. And the first instance is that we are talking of recession, and we are talking of unemployment, finding ways of curbing unemployment. But then the government is initiating policies that will invigorate unemployment, because a lot of people right now are unemployed because of this very policy. In my own area, I know I can stay here and count 5 people on my fingers who are right now unemployed, who are not doing anything because of this policy. And it surprises me that in a country where people swear to uphold the tenets of the Constitution, that you do the other one. We don't listen to public opinion when we are formulating policies. It's only the Senate that is, most of the time, when they listen to public opinion, they come here and reverse themselves. But the others, the executive, they don't. Once they pursue a policy, they pursue it to the final, not minding what will happen to those people for whom they are making the policy. This is a policy that is negative, very negative to our people, in terms of employment, in terms of empowerment. Right now, you cannot buy a new vehicle. It's only a billionaire that can buy new vehicles. And it is through this means that people are mobile. people who save a lot of money for a very long time can buy vehicles and be mobile. And when this policy is now held, it means that many people will continue trekking for a long time in their life. Therefore, I support this motion that the customs should find ways, other ways and means of making sure that the borders are manned, making sure that they collect their tolls instead of complete banning of vehicles from the borders. Therefore, this is a negative policy like the one we discussed yesterday, which my brother Sam Egu said, that of closing the airport here in Abuja. And the government should listen to public opinion in whatever they want to do. On that note, I want to support wholeheartedly this motion.
All right, Senator Shehu Sani. After Shehu Sani, we'll take Benga Shafa, and then Ben Bruce will wrap up. We'll go to the prayers.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to lend my voice to this very robust debate on a very important issue that affects the economy of a large section of Nigerians. Mr. President, all has been said as far as the negative side of the ban on importation of vehicles through the land borders. Well, from my own study, this is one country out of so many that had decided on its own to strangulate a large section of its populace that lives within the land borders, and also strangulate businesses that has provided jobs for hundreds of thousands and millions of Nigerians. The ill effect of this ban is in 4 ways. First, vehicles are not needles. It is unfortunate that a custom, an institution that has existed for over 6 decades, will now say clearly that they cannot man our borders and collect revenues that are due for our country. And I will say this, Nigeria is not an ordinary country in Africa. We have a duty to our continent and to our sub-region. Our neighbors are people that we should always support. This ban does not only strangulate the communities that live within our borders, but it also help and squeeze the economies of countries of Benin, of Niger, of Chad, of Cameroon, who have always supported and sided with us in so many ways. Today we are faced with an insurgency that has consumed hundreds of thousands of lives of Nigerians, for which the spillover we can see within our borders. If anybody means harm to this country, the first point, the first trajectory point is our neighboring countries. Then if they don't have a reason to identify and benefit with us, for what reason will they have to stand with us in terms of those who will plan evil against us? And I will say this very clearly, that if you look at this ban, it is more of an attempt to enrich and empower an entrenched bourgeoisie business interests who have stake in importing vehicles through the sea. And I will say this clearly, that we cannot in any way afford to close down our borders to strangulate businesses. We are not banning the importation of vehicles to encourage local production. We are simply closing down the borders to allow importation through the sea, which makes no sense. So as far as I'm concerned, we must, as a Senate, stand resolutely opposed to this, that this government and the institution of customs service must comply with the demands of Nigerians. There is no gainsaying. We are spending billions to maintain a customs service and they cannot in any way protect our borders and collect revenues. What the customs are saying is simply demonstrating their level of weakness, debility, incapacity, and incompetence. And in this aspect, I will say this strongly, our borders should be open. If there is any amendment that should be made on this, clearly, is to make specific entry points within the borders. For that very reason, we can regulate importation through the land borders, but not to strangulate it. And I thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well spoken. Senator Shafa.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. Senator Benga Ashafa, representing Lagos East Senatorial District. I rise to support this motion and to align with so many reasons adduced by my distinguished colleagues earlier. Mr. President, I will give you practical examples where this policy has really affected the ordinary Nigerian businessmen who are trying to contribute their own small quota through employment. If you go on Western Avenue and Agege Road in Lagos, not excluding Ikorodu Road, these are areas where you find used vehicles that average Nigerian will go and buy to do their businesses. As I'm speaking with you, or as I'm speaking to this upper house now, almost all the car dealers on those stretches are closed down. This is practical. And I'm saying, why has this happened? It is because the government that is our own, one way or the other, has been misadvised to issue out directives bordering on shutting down the businesses of Nigerians. Learning from experience, this new policy will only force clearing agents to go into smuggling. That is my own main concern. Clearing agents who are doing their legitimate businesses before will now be forced to go into smuggling. And like every other thing, some people will posit an argument that if we are able to close our borders for rice, and it is working for us, why can't we do the same thing for vehicles? This is not working in the case of vehicles because there are no alternatives. The alternative that we proffered in the case of rice ban through land borders is very, very visible to Nigerians. The lake rice, which is a product of Lagos State government and Kebbi State government, when it was to come out, it came out with almost half the price of imported rice. But let me shock you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. If you think that the imported rice are not coming in, we are making a mistake. They are coming in, it is only that they are rebagged in such a manner that you cannot tell from which country they are coming from. They would rather not put the country, and the rice are coming in. How have they been able to come in? It is because our borders are porous. The customs, in whatever form, have disappointed Nigerians. Let me go further to say that I will support a situation where we have our factories producing Nigerian-made vehicles like my brother, Senator Ben Bruce, will say, which I align with, and of course this whole Senate aligned with the Made in Nigeria goods, what we found out is the fact that the factories that we have in Nigeria that are supposed to be making vehicles are equally culpable, even to the extent that on this same floor, a major vehicle manufacturing company has been indicted and investigation is going on. I want to support this motion and all the prayers that have been said, and to implore the present government that issues bordering on an average Nigerian being able to live should be treated with all the responsibility attached to it. On this note, I want to thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. Thank you.
Senator Ben Bruce.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Ben Murray Bruce, representing Bayelsa East. In supporting the motion, I don't want to repeat what my wonderful colleagues have said. I just want to raise a couple of very, very important points, which is very important for us. One, Nigeria does not have an automobile policy, first. So in banning vehicles, you don't even have a policy to refer to. That is one. Two, people in government sometimes see businessmen as adversaries, not people they must promote. And I will tell you a short story to underscore what I've just said. When I became Director General of NTA in 1999, a lot of people forget that television in Nigeria was only 6 to 8 hours a day. From 1960 to 99, TV was only 6 to 8 hours a day. On my first day at work, I asked my colleagues, why is television 6 to 8 hours a day? They said it was impossible for NTA to transmit 24-hour television. I told them that was an impossibility. Within 7 days, I gave Nigeria 24-hour television by choice, because that was what I wanted. Now, what is happening here is a lack of imagination, creativity by those who serve government. These people who make these laws, who want to shut down airports, are not qualified for the job they are paid to do. It's as simple as that. I think we are beaten around the bush. So I want to appeal to President Muhammadu Buhari directly. Mr. President, the people that have been appointed to do these jobs are not qualified. I want to ask you, Mr. President, to please relieve them or redeploy them to other parts of government so private sector people can be employed to do what they are supposed to do. This government is not here to impoverish Nigerians, put people on the unemployment line, create poverty in the land, see importers of cars as competitors to their jobs. These individuals, I repeat, are not qualified to hold these positions. You cannot shut down the airport. You cannot stop cars coming into the country. We must address the issue. Who is at fault? If they are not qualified for the jobs they've been entrusted to do, then they must be relieved of that responsibility. You cannot tell me that if you have a border post, you cannot man the border post. What is the budget of customs? What is the budget of the Ministry of Aviation? I'll tell you a simple story. Take Muritala Mohammed 1. Muritala Mohammed 1 is nothing but a mall. Ask those who run that mall, how many square meters of space do you have? What is the revenue you generate? Why are lifts, escalators not working, toilets not clean? If we in the private sector can run our businesses with no money, have major indebtedness to the bank, and you are sitting there with revenue, unbelievable revenue, and you cannot run something as simple as a space, an air-conditioned space. That is all it is. Because the management of Muritala Mohammed do not pay customs, do not pay the police, do not pay for the services. The customs department pay for that service. The police pay for that service. They do not pay DSS or SSS. All they do is provide a service.
yet that place is an eyesore. We must privatize government. I have had the privilege of running a business, working for the executive, and now I make laws with my colleagues. The problem you have is a lot of the people in government are not qualified for the jobs they are doing. We must not beat around the bush. It is an atrocious policy. But the issue is President Buhari must understand that he has to relieve these people of these responsibilities. If he does not, Nigeria cannot make any progress. These people are not qualified in any disguise to run these agencies if they are going to come here and put millions and millions of people on the unemployment line. That is my submission. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, distinguished colleagues. We spent over an hour debating this particular issue, and I think it deserves this number of minutes, the quantity of time we've dedicated towards this, because it concerns our people. As far as we are concerned, democracy is still the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the greatest business of government is the interest of the people. So the implication, therefore, is that the people are our employers. And if they say, maybe to their representatives, that this is what they want, I'm sure government should be able to listen and address it appropriately. So having heard the whole of the senators speaking here, my take is that it is the view of the Senate that the closure of borders for importation of used vehicles is something that government may have to revisit. So if that's the wish of the people who employed us, namely the electorates, now to their representatives, who must yield to those expectations, to those directives, because they are directives, because we're here, at the instance of our people. And of course, those in the executive are also there at the instance of the people. So if we will still believe that democracy is, we're running a democratic government, and democracy is government of the people, by the people and for the people, we must ensure that whatever policy that we tend to introduce must also meet the expectations of our people. So having said this, let me again thank all of you for your wise contributions, and I believe that by the time we go to the prayers and we take our resolutions, that government will also respect the views of not just the Senate, but the people of Nigeria who are speaking through their senators this afternoon. So on this, let me put the question.
Yes, that's so much been said about the ban on the importation of vehicles through the land borders. Now, as we have promised earlier on, I have with me the former, as he said, you can hear him. Please come, sir. Is former leader of the Senate.
I said former.
Yes. So you said it yourself. Things have come, and as we said, things happen in life.
Yes, sure.
From your body language and everything, no offense meant, none taken.
No, not at all. I'm a Muslim and I'm a true believer.
Yeah.
Anything that happens to a man, he should take it the way it comes and pray to God that it is for the better. Yeah. In Hausa, they say, Allah sahaka fi al-hirin. I thank God that I served 1.5 years. I mean, so many people have died within that period that are better than me. In fact, yesterday, one of my friends died as I was announced, as I was removed as the Senate leader. And I thank God, as I said, the news people, everybody, the public, did not find me wanting in the discharge of my responsibility as the Senate leader. And then I have not been accused of any form of mismanagement, corruption, or abuse of office. And my colleagues, as I said, sat down, though not under normal circumstance, removed me. I feel that is being honored again, and it's honorable. If people will remove you by collecting signature behind you and hiding the collection of the signature, and then it is announced when you go to pray in your absence, then you thank God that maybe even those that did it do not have the courage to confront me and say, this is it. And as I said, this is just past thing. It has happened, and I'm ready to move on, as you can see. People are thinking that, no, I did not come here to be the Senate leader. If it is what I want, I wanted to be the Senate president. God did not make it. I contested for the deputy Senate president. I lost, and I took it in good faith. And now I was appointed the Senate leader under even different controversial circumstances. You know, the party was saying one thing, and, we are saying one thing.
but God has destined that I will be the Senate leader for 1.5 years, and alhamdulillah. So I want to really, really thank my supporters and those so many people out there that appreciate my performance as the Senate leader. I have seen it on Twitter and pages, and as I said, I have not done anything. If anything, we disagreed on the confirmation of Magu as chairman of EFCC. And I still stand by my position that Magu was not rejected. And he is from my state. And I'm the Senate leader as at that time. My responsibility is I am the chief marketing officer of everything that the president brought. So I have to stand by a nominee from my state and a nominee by Mr. President. If that event reoccurs again, I will still do that. So as I told my colleagues, I hold no grudge against anybody. The fact that some people signed, and it is too late, the fact that it's there, that some people say they have lost confidence in me, although there is no reason for losing confidence in me. Some people did not sign. Now, about 4 or 5 members came to me to say, look, they didn't know. And some are saying, no, they told us that there is a decision by the party. Well, if it's neither here nor there, but whatever it is, I take it in good faith. And I wish the new leader is my brother. Okay. You know, we were in the House together, we are in the Senate. I wish him well. And this Senate must stand. My only concern, as I said before, is that this is an institution that should not be submissive to the whip and cribbles of an individual that is one among equal. That is wrong. Yes.
So we wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, this will put to rest speculations by some section of the media that are saying that Senator Ali Ndume is still maintaining that he is still the leader of the Senate. Now, this is how far we can go on this very edition of the very first live edition, that is from the National Assembly Senate. On behalf of the entire crew, this is Waziri Zayaru saying, have a very pleasant day and bye-bye.